Thank you so much for having me here today. I appreciate the opportunity.
Okay, well, thank you for being here. We're now here with Rosilicie Ochoa Bogh, who
Perfect.
is running for state senate. Uh, Thank you for being here. Could you tell us, I guess, first of all, what district you're in, what communities are in your district, and also a little bit about your campaign?
Absolutely. So I'm running for the California State Senate District 23, currently held by Senator Mike Morrell, who is termed out. I will be representing about 24 cities and communities, including on the west end, Rancho Cucamonga, Pinion Hills, Phelan. We go to North San Bernardino, Highland, the mountain areas, Crest Lake, Big Bear Lake, Lake Arrowhead, go down to Mentone, Yucaipa, Cherry Valley, Beaumont, Calimesa, Beaumont, Banning, and Cabazon. We go down to Hemet, San Jacinto, Menifee, and Nuevo, and we go up to Redlands and Loma Linda. So it's a very diverse topography and quite an extensive area. But it's a beautiful district. I've been blessed to have worked in 6 of those community cities and communities within my professional work, and so it's been wonderful to know the leaders and the community members that make those communities thrive. So it's a beautiful district. I love the people here, and yeah, it's home.
Okay, well, thank you. So, Rosilicie, can you tell me a little bit about what the issues are that are important to you and important to your district that you're campaigning on?
Absolutely. So just to give you a little background, we have very strong, deep roots in the Inland Empire, both my side of the family and my husband's side of the family. Our families have been here between 60 and 80 years. And through my work experience, I'm a former elementary school teacher that taught English language learners. After starting our family, I stayed home for a bit. I then decided to return into the workforce and begin my real estate career in that endeavor. That allowed me to start being more involved in our community here in the city of Yucaipa. I was able to serve on the Chamber of Commerce in our city, got me really involved with our business community, as well as with our local electeds. Got a little insight into how everything worked within our city, and we're a very service-minded small community, small city. And we've grown because of the development that has occurred in the past 20 years in our city. I also had an opportunity to work for a local elected that allowed me to come out of my real estate area into surrounding cities and really got a keen insight into how Sacramento legislation was affecting our local communities. And this notion of the one size fits all that we continually see in Sacramento has really not worked for the Inland Empire. So when the opportunity came, I also sit on the Yucaipa Calimesa School Board currently right now, as well as the East Valley Association Board of Realtors. So I have different insights both on the education front and the real estate. And I bring that into focus because those are some of the areas that I'm focusing on here. But let me share with you a little bit more about what I've learned since I've started running for office and why I did, and why I pursued this endeavor. It was mostly because I've seen that we need to have a voice in Sacramento that is coming from a different variety of experiences. So because of my life experiences, both professionally and personally, they really have given me a very grounded and well-rounded perspective on the issues and the people that are being affected by this legislation that hasn't really catered to the needs of the Inland Empire. So as I'm going through, I have my personal experiences of what has not worked, but it's been just confirmed by meeting with constituents within the district and having those conversations with people that live right here. So the cost of living that has affected our seniors, has been for many of our seniors detrimental, those who are on fixed income. The high taxes that we have in here in our state has really been affecting those that are the most vulnerable in our state. So our seniors, those that are at entry-level wages, those who are starting their families, those young families, and our special needs communities that are being affected by the cost of living that goes up. From a real estate perspective, I look at how the cost of building has made housing so unaffordable in our area. But yet a lot of us are bedroom communities. People are commuting out here 2-3 hours in order to work and provide for their families. So the lack of housing in California, the cost of housing is an issue. And of course, I'm coming in from a professional perspective on there, but also from a personal perspective. My mother can't live in California. She can't afford to live here. So that is a huge concern for me. So I'm coming in with those priorities, but seeing also how it's affecting our local communities from interacting with them as a school board member, getting letters from our parents asking, if we can help find accommodations for them. I had one father who emailed me on my birthday about 2-3 years ago, and he's giving me permission to share his story, but he was desperate to find just a room for him and his son at the time. So, and he said, I can afford $600. I'm willing to just rent a room for my son and myself. Those stories have really impacted the way that I see the needs of our communities. And so I'm really concerned about the one-party rule that we have in California and the policies that have been in place for the past 40 years and how they really haven't been working. We have been seeing what I call or refer to as the warm, fuzzy Band-Aid legislation, which they sound really good and really warm, and they feel like they're going to help, but when put into place, they have long-term effects that are really detrimental to our most vulnerable in our community. So I'm hoping to be just a different perspective and start looking at issues at the root of the problem and hoping to look at legislation from that angle. Is what is it causing? Why is it that we need this piece of legislation? How can we fix it? And not just do the superficial band-aids, but actually go towards a more deep-rooted, aspect into this piece of legislation, hopefully changing the environment in which many of our families are living right now, because it's disheartening to see the desperation in people's eyes when they come and they tell you, what they're suffering and how they're being affected by the decisions that are being made in Sacramento, and how those directly affect their quality of life right here. And most people don't understand that, we've been under this 140 rule for 40 years. The governor, third term Democrat, 40 senators, out of the 40 senators, only 11 are Republican, including the seat that I'm currently running for. And out of the 80 assembly members, only 17 are Republicans. So when people talk about, the top issues of concern for them, whether it's the high cost of living, the high taxes, the lack of housing, education, public safety, infrastructure, all of that has been impacted by one-party rule, Democrats. And so I think we don't have any checks and balances based on that makeup of the legislature right now. And I would love to have the opportunity to represent a different perspective, come from a different angle, and help bring that balance back so that we can have more collaborative, more thought-provoking conversations about how legislation is going to affect everyday Californians, not just right now, but long-term. So those are some of the concerns that I have. This is where I'm coming from, and I'm hoping to represent our district in a respectful and civil manner, because I think that's very important, especially in the current climate that we're in.
Okay, great, thank you. I'm certainly very concerned about the erosion of the California tax base. I mean, we're seeing a migration of taxpayers, and one solution has been to raise taxes. And I guess I'd like to ask you, do you have some thoughts about how we can, keep that value here and keep businesses here and keep California strong? How would you address this problem?
Great question. I'm so glad you're addressing that, because that's another thing, coming from a business perspective and a business background with our family businesses. You know, the number one thing that I hear from business owners is how they are ready to leave our state. Or those who are about to retire or retire are leaving our state. Those are tax dollars that we're paying into retirement systems that are leaving our state because of the cost of living. So one of the things that I try to really bring to the forefront is the notion that raising taxes to fix a problem hasn't worked for California. And the litmus test is for anyone considering, you know, raising taxes is whether or not, you know, you plan on staying here in California and living here through your retirement years, or do you plan on taking your tax dollars out of state so that you can have a better quality of life with your family? Those are some of the questions that I try to put into perspective for people. So litmus test: would you stay here and live here in your retirement days with your retirement? And number two, will you leave your business here so that, you know, you can provide the local jobs? So one of the things that we need to do is really create a better business environment for our businesses to be able to stay in California, be incentivized to stay here and create, or, you know, well, in this case, they would already have the jobs, but leave those jobs available for our local Californians. We have to reduce the cost of living. That means actually, believe it or not, trying to reduce the taxes that we have. Because just to give you a little perspective, back in 2000, I believe, I'll put 2019, we had a $21.5 billion surplus, pre-COVID-19, of course. And yet we still managed to pass an additional $4.5 billion in taxes. So California has not had, you know, a revenue problem. We have a spending problem. It's, you know, we need to prioritize, really tighten our belt. We're expected as consumers, as, you know, responsible, you know, family members, and those who, you know, like my husband and I, we have our household. We're expected to be fiscally prudent in our cost of living. I mean, our expenses and how we manage our expenses. We need to do that under the state. And we do have to make some tough choices. But most importantly, as we do with any organization, whether it's the school district, or the East Valley Association Board of Realtors, or our home, or our local businesses, we create a priority of needs and then wants. And we create the budget to meet those expectations. California right now has over $500 billion in debt. Think about that. And we're coming into now COVID-related debt that is, you know, we're in a deficit, I believe, at $54 billion as of the last number that I heard. So we're going to have to make some tough choices. Everyone's going to have to tighten their belts a bit, but we can do that. It's changing the mindset that we have, that raising taxes on people, once again, affecting the most vulnerable. This is where it doesn't make sense. Affecting the most vulnerable, and then we create another program to meet those needs. Why don't we just make the cost of living less expensive by reducing taxes where we can, and really tightening? And I know we have to work with the Legislative Analyst Office, and one of the things that I used to love to read were the reports, the audit reports from different agencies and across the state, to see, you know, where they could make costs, you know, what agencies were, where they were efficient, where they weren't. And I think we need to start focusing on that angle, on those, and cutting costs where we can. Living a little leaner, we can do that, at least until we get up into our feet and we reduce that debt, because that debt is not going anywhere. And as far as where we're going, it's going to get worse and worse. And lo and behold, my children are going to have to pay for that. Their children will have to pay for that. And that is completely irresponsible and unfair. I'm not going to do that with my household. We're trying to prepare ourselves so that we don't become a burden on our children. And we can't do that to our children and our future here in California. So it's irresponsible, and we can't put our children in debt before they're even born.
Okay, thank you very much. Last question quickly in our last 30 seconds. How do people get a hold of you if they want to contact your campaign?
Oh, wonderful. Thank you for asking. Please visit our website at OchoaBoghForSenate.com. OchoaBoghForSenate.com. I know it's a mouthful. It's OCHOA, B as in boy, OGH, for Senate, spelled out FOR, Senate.com. would love to hear your voice. Please submit any questions, concerns. I take personal responsibility in making sure that I answer many of the questions that I can, and I try to do it as quickly as I'm able to. So thank you so much for the opportunity to share our thoughts, and here's to making California a better place for our families and our future Californians.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Have a great day.